70 minutes and everything still to play for, ladies and gentlemen. It is round 7 of the Simrigs Sprint Series, and it's going to be the Nurburgring. That will be the battleground for an exciting championship finale. Hello, everybody. My name is Nick Amon, and I want to welcome you to tonight's broadcast. Like I said, final round of North American Sprint, and these drivers aren't even close to being done yet. Across the field, we've got battles getting ready to really just come to fruition, and we're going to see what happens. Like I said, 70 minutes, and it's going to be 2 mandatory stops this evening. Drivers are going to have to manage that quite nicely, depending on how the weather holds up. It was a bit damp in the qualifying session for EU earlier today, dried out right by the end, and then we had a pretty dry race from lights to flag. But should the weather change, drivers will have to mix up that pit strategy. We saw drivers coming in about 25-30 minutes into the race, and then from there, well, they went on towards the end. We had some going pretty late into the session, in fact. We'll see if North America does the same. We'll have to just wait and see how that happens. Right now, it is Jonathan Clifford in the 999 Lamborghini with a 54.01, almost into the 53s. Ronaldo Dornelis right here with a 54.24, his personal best right now in free practice. And then Mark Antoine Landry, I am never going to get that right as long as he's here. Only 8 thousandths behind Clifford. Very close there up at the top. 2 Lamborghinis with an Audi in between. But we're getting towards the end of free practice here. Should be hopping over to, to qualifying in just a minute. But let's look at last week's results. Of course, who were at Zandvoort. Pretty good race overall. It was Dornelis that did come out on top. That's helped his championship efforts a good bit, but it was Landry in second place, so the gap he could have closed up wasn't quite what he wanted it to be. And then, of course, Clifford in that top 3. We're getting used to him being this high up consistently. A really good driver, has really been able to improve upon himself season after season after season, and it's incredible to watch him. Still has the fastest lap, though, albeit by a little bit. For the Pro-Ams, though, it was Formato ahead of Parity and Nunez. And then for the amateurs, Shirley, Mike, and Parkinson all showing out. They are, well, a couple drivers who are going to have to be dealing with a lot of traffic here and a lot of competition. Of course, it was Dornelis that did pick up some bonus points for that fastest lap, a 1:35.59. Only 0.3 quicker than Loverink, 35.89 for him. But Jonathan Clifford leading us out onto the track right now. We'll take this minute to give him a bit of a chance to get to the start-finish line. We'll give a quick shout-out to Simrigs for sponsoring Season 13 of the Sprint Series. We've had them before, and we're going to have them again out of Melbourne, Australia. If you're looking to upgrade your rig or maybe add a couple goodies to what you have right now, kind of just up the immersion, well, if you're Australia and New Zealand, they've got you covered. And outside of that, you send them an email, sure, they'll be happy to do some business with you. And of course, those of you who are OR Patreon members, you guys are getting 5% off your purchases. You should definitely take advantage of that. Sim racing equipment's not cheap, especially given the current state of things. But again, thank you to Simrigs for sponsoring Season 13, and we hope to see them again for Season 14 of the Sprint Series. Speaking of which, registrations for Season 14 have begun. So if you were in the Rookie Series and you're looking to upgrade yourself up to something a little bit more competitive, well, Simrigs definitely has a spot for you. But if you're looking for something a bit longer than that, then the Endurance Series is where you're going to find your home. Registrations for that have also opened. And of course, how could I leave out our beloved Rookie Series? How do you think I got here? They have also opened up registration. Everything can be found on the website, octaneonlineracing.com.au. Tabs all over the place letting you know that we are ready for your contributions to the racetrack here in the OOR. Right now, Jonathan Clifford comes around the final corner and will show us, well, what it means to be one of the top drivers here at the Nurburgring. So a long front straight, you can really get up towards that top end of the vehicle. You're going to break about 80-75 meters or so before the board. Make sure you don't go too close on the inside. That elevation change is quite steep, very easy to unsettle the car, very easy to spin out through Mercedes Arena here, a section of the course that I think everyone or at least a good chunk of the community shares a similar distaste for. Very slow. This 90-degree right here, you can sometimes take it in first gear, but Clifford, you saw, just keeping it in second. Another corner here, a couple gear shifts, a little tricky to get right, especially when you start knocking all the cones away. Then you have sort of this, not quite back straight, but definitely a quick downhill section towards the Dunlop curve. You're almost going back 180 degrees, I think a little bit more than that. Slightly cambered too, you want to get on the power as soon as you can. Power to the outside, as much of that extra little bit of road as you can. Now up through Schumacher. Not quite flat out in these cars, of course. In the Formula 1 cars it's a little bit easier, you know, have a lot more downforce, but here at GT3 is not quite the case. Head up under the banner, about the 100 board, that's your mark. This corner, very easy to get wrong. That just the boundary of the circuit kind of sneaks up on you if you're not careful for it, and then you get onto what is effectively the back straight here at the Nurburgring. Now normally if this was connected to the green hell, then we'd be able to go left instead of right. Unfortunately that's not the case, and look at how far Clifford is braking. He's just about 50 meters. That is where he decides to brake, and there's a little bit of a dead patch of grass on the outside there. That's usually what I use, and it looks like Clifford as well. And out of the final corner again, use all that runoff. Start working your way up through the gears. Cross the line though, 54.41. For the Alpha Sim Sport Lamborghini, I'd also like to take a moment just say yes, the liveries are going to be messed up. I forgot to resync the liveries prior to tonight's race, but that's okay. As long as the cars are working, I think that's all that really matters. Renato Dornelis though, 53.67. So almost half a second to Flomger. So keep an eye on everything and report on it as it develops. But right now I want to take a quick look at the standings for this season. So currently it is Landry on top, 784 points. I can't even begin to tell you the kind of season he's had. It's been absolutely incredible. He's got a 45 point gap to Dornelis. So right now with Dornelis on pole, that would be an extra 5 points. Landry would only pick up 2. That gap would come down to 42 points. But that's still going to be a pretty sizable mountain to overcome. And then it is Flomger in third position, 583 points. He's 156 back from Dornelis, so he's very much out of the picture. Even if he did manage to get full points, it wouldn't matter because he would still have to find a way around Landry, which wouldn't be possible because he would need about 211 points, which isn't easy. It's not possible to do in a sprint race. But for the Pro-Ams, Michael Formato leads at 305 points, a 60-point gap over Wilson. Both of these drivers here tonight, I didn't quite see what Wilson's pace was, but he'll certainly try to, overcome that gap. And then Wilson only has 1 point to Briscoe, unfortunately. That third driver not here tonight, so that'll be good news for Wilson. He just has to focus on getting around one person and opening up that gap to a pretty sizable amount, depending on where they both end up. But with Formato in P10 right now, he's second overall in the Pro-Am category. First in that one does go to Hunter Page, and the number 6 Lambo, driver I have a lot of experience with. But for right now, Wilson has yet to put a lap in. Has gotten a couple of laps in, but they have been invalidated for track limits. And then amateurs is Rob Jacques and who is that? Rob Jacques and I just saw the name too. It was Tim Parkinson who, or not Tim Parkinson, excuse me. It's Austin Shirley and Rob Jacques. Both have 39 points down in the amateur class. It's Parkinson though that does have 33 points. Mike was supposed to be here. Oh, Edmund actually is here. Or Edson, excuse me. Edson Mike is here. So Edson Mike is 3 points back from Shirley. Parkinson is 6 points back. So depending on how that works, if Shirley can come home ahead of the other two, wins amateur outright. But if Mike finishes ahead, he's got to have a pretty good gap. There's going to be 21 cars. So point distribution, 21st gets 7 points. Or 27 points, rather, excuse me. And then you get 30 for 20th, 33 for 19th. So, for Mike, he's going to have to finish in 19th. And I'll have to bank on Shirley finishing at the back of the grid. the Mexican hasn't set a time yet. He just got in the server too, so we'll have to wait and see what he can pull out of his hat. But after the last race, Dornelis closed his gap up by 25 points. If you remember, he was sitting 70 points back of the leader, but because of his efforts last time around at Zandvoort, he has closed that up to 45. So with a provisional pole position, that would be 5 bonus points added on, which would be, well, 40 points to overcome by the end of it. For Fermato, he went from 3rd to 1st with his performance in Pro-Am, which moved Wilson and Briscoe back 1 position each. And then for the amateurs, it's just been pretty quiet over there. They haven't done a lot of position shuffling, really. It's unfortunate, but of course with Rob Jacques not being here, that does give Shirley the chance to take home everything. Mike as well, same with Parkinson. Only 6 points separate those 3 drivers. Now looking at the championship picture, if Landry finishes ahead of Dornelis at any point, he takes home the championship. However, if Dornelis wins, if he comes in first, Landry has to finish 4th or worse for him to take the championship away. With Landry sitting just under 3/10 back from Dornelis' 53-51, I don't know. He is about 800ths down to Clifford, so Clifford's got to do a lot of work. Same with Pierce. They're both going to have to work together almost if they want to just snuff Landry's chances of actually taking home the trophy. Flomger could also get into the mix, 15 thousandths back from Pierce. So if they can just keep it close and reel Clifford in a little bit each time, and Clifford can do the same to Landry, we could see a 4-way fight for the lead. Dornelis, of course, would enjoy that because that would give him a nice gap to work with, and from there, well, anything's possible. Anything can happen. For the Pro-Ams, though, for Fermato, he just has to win if he's ahead. Period. That's all he has to do. With Wilson and Briscoe not being... Or no, sorry, Wilson is here. So for Wilson, that's still a pretty sizable portion to overcome, if I'm being honest. 60 points. Now, if you're looking strictly at the times here, let's say Wilson finishes in 13th position. That is 55 points. Unfortunately, well, you can't really do negative numbers here, and the points don't go back far enough for it to really be, well, reasonable for you to see anything less. So let's say Wilson Fermato finishes dead last in 21st position. That would be 27 points. So that would mean that, well, Wilson's got to finish in at least P6, which is a long ways up. So we'll have to see if he can do just that. Of course, amateur, like I said, still very much in the picture. It's not gonna be easy. Also, of course, welcoming in everybody as well. Yeah, it is me, Krebs. How could I not be back? I did a small stream today with my own Twitch, and then I came here, did EU with Simon, and now I'm here doing it in NA. But yeah, dry quali here. Could see rain in the race. I did talk to Mullick before I went to bed last night. I sent him a DM, and I basically said, you know, even the usual, you know, ready for my usual asset pack so I can do these broadcasts, and then, you know, just sort of talked about the season and talked about the future beyond that, and I said to him, you know, maybe we could have some rain, possibly, maybe. And he says, well, I cranked the chances up for rain. We'll have to see what happens. EU had a wet qualifying that was actually, I believe, fast by the end of it. We saw a couple of position changes. But, yeah. So, North America, though, it is dry as a bone out there. 21 ambient, 27 on track. A 5-kilometer wind, so it's actually different. EU is a bit colder and a bit windier, if I remember correctly, but that track didn't dry as quickly. And, of course, Notbone, good to see you. Yep. Always make sure you guys are taking care of your real-life stuff before anything else. But it's still Dornelis with that 55 or 53-51, trying to find a little bit extra time. Skylar Loverink, a driver we have talked about quite a lot here in the Sprint Series, is going up into P6. Just moved Portis and Thompson out of the way with a 54-24. So he'll have some more time. Still about 2.5 minutes to go. Could see some improvements. Edson Mike still in the pit lane. Has not gone out on circuit just yet. Although Chris Frizza is on an improvement right now. Has found about a second. And with a 56.99, it's better than a 57. Even if it is just barely. The 1 second improvement would just put him around Shirley. For Shirley, that would be a little bit of a problem, because that would leave himself and Parkinson in the same spot, and that's exactly what's not going to happen. Frizza does improve, but it's not enough to overtake Shirley. Still has 4/10 to go. Kenneth Portis, he has, well, probably been maybe regretting his Honda choice a little bit. Not as strong as it used to be. It got kind of reeled into the pack a little bit directly, a little bit indirectly with the BOP changes in the 1.9 update and a couple of other little update hot fixes we've had recently. Right now, he is slight improving right now. Could see him into the 53s as well. That would be the 5th driver to find his way into the 53s. Same with Skylar Lovering. Both of these guys trying to push any last little bit of pace they can. But this will be the last lap coming up for Portis. If he goes wide at any point, that lap invalidated. He's not going to have a chance. 54.13. It is enough to get around Lovering, but not enough to find his way into that 153 club. Could the number 52 do it? He's got a lot of extra speed here out of the final chicane. He does hook up the final corner quite nicely as he heads across the line. It's going to be 5th overall right now for Lovering, a 53.975, only 3 thousandths behind Thomas Pierce, and he still has this final lap to make up some ground. Michael Formato as well. It sucks not seeing all these liveries on the car. I will apologize again to the drivers. I already know I'm going to catch flack in the Discord for it. I could probably open it up at some point here in the broadcast and just see no penalties, or no liveries rather, followed by a sad face. So you gotta give a huge shout out to the guys who actually make these liveries, all the work they put in to actually making these cars come alive. It's impressive. I've tried it myself. I've gotten the necessary files. I've looked around and I've thought, wow, this is not something I want to do. If I ever need a livery, I'll just find one online, or I'll get someone to do it for me. But qualifying has ended, so there's only a few drivers out right now that are on improvements. Michael Formato is one of them. Coming up to the final corner. He's got several tenths, actually. He's just picked up. This could be huge, actually. This could possibly be a top 10 start for the number 11. Is he going to do it? 9th overall, a 154.66. That pushes Hunter Page out of it. But the Canadian is just a little bit about even right now. Could spoil the party. Not too certain of that. Timothy Flomger, the 19 Porsche Nurburgring. I mean, you should name a better couple, as he goes second, just under, or just over rather, quarter of a second back from Dornelis, and that's good because that pushes Landry back another position. And Dornelis is going to be extremely happy about that. We'll rejoin Jonathan Clifford, trying to find any extra bit of time he can, really throwing that thing across the curbs as much as he can without losing it. And he is an expert on how to drive the Lamborghini. If you ever wondered, he's going to show you exactly what it means to be the fastest, and he's going to just stop the car. Either invalidated his lap or was going to be too far behind by the time he got to the final line. So it is just Hunter Page out on circuit right now. Edson Mike does not set a time at all, so he'll be starting from the back of the grid. Parkinson is still split up by Frizza from Shirley. And that gap quite significant, in fact. So Parkinson either not practicing or not too confident. Hunter Page just runs it off the road. And that is going to do it. So Page will start in P11 as we get ready for the final grid walk of the season. It's always sad to do, but all good things must come to an end. Unfortunately, no liveries, which is sad because I was telling myself that I needed to sync the liveries before the broadcast, and then I didn't. I promise I know what I'm doing. But take a look at these cars one last time. So we are going to be getting ready for an explosive finish here for the Simrigs Sprint Series. It's Dornelis, another pole for him. How many times has he gotten pole in his seasons here in Sprint? I've lost count. It's Flomger, though, who does push Landry down a little bit. 2 and 3 for them. Clifford getting into the top 4, and Thomas Pierce rounds out those first 5 positions. Very good news for that. Skylar Lovrink starts us off in 6th with Portis behind 7th, and Braden Thompson 8th position for Motto. And Wilson will make it into the top 10. Hunter Page, we just saw at the end of qualifying there, just take off onto the gravel. Starts us out in P11 with Rasco keeping him company there on the 6th row of the grid. It's Thomas Dagg, Austin Carpenter, Andrew Wilson, and Kevin Parody. That's 13 down to 16. A lot of those drivers going to be going toe-to-toe here for any last little bit of bragging rights they can have over the other. Dave Hasser and Austin Shirley on the 9th row of the grid. Chris Frizza splits Tim Parkinson away from the amateur class leader. And Edson Mike rounds us out. The only Lexus on the field, and unfortunately, no safety car to speak of. Don't need it, as North America is just that good. But the final bit of prep work being done for these drivers. Last few setup changes, you can see the car's kind of jolting around a little bit. Maybe some suspension, maybe brake ducts, toe and camber, aerodynamics. It could be a multitude of things, ride height even, tire pressures, you name it. They're probably going to tweak it a little bit. And not only that, they gotta start making sure their pit strategies are set up properly. Like I said, 70-minute race, 2 mandatory stops. The weather forecast only shows us 30 minutes ahead. So drivers will make those first stops probably, I'd say 20-25 minutes into the race. And then they'll most likely wait for the timer to dip under 30 minutes before they decide, do I need to set up slicks or should I get the wets ready? The countdown starting. If you don't hit drive, you're not going to go. You're going to be starting from the pit lane. There's Renato Dornelis taking off with Timothy Flomger, Marc-Antoine Landry, and Jonathan Clifford. Thomas Pierce, Skylar Lovrink, Kenneth Portis, Braden Thompson, Michael Formato, Wilson Fernandez. That's the top 10. It's Paige Rasco, Dagg Carpenter, Wilson Parody, Hasser Shirley, Frizza Parkinson, Edson, and Nunez does not hit go. So that will definitely cause a couple of problems. But for the last time, these drivers are going to head out onto circuit. One final parade lap to send us off into the sunset. Yeah, and you can see Nunez in the pit lane. Makes it 22, so a very, very late arrival for him. But that does possibly cause some changes, especially to those AM drivers. We're already getting those darn cones out of the way. How could they? But Dornelis will be our safety car for the start of the race. Again, Dornelis, if he wins this race, and Landry, you can see the Audi right there, that blue, black, and white Audi. If that finishes at least 4th or lower, then Dornelis takes home the win. If that doesn't happen, it will be Landry's. Point distribution, of course, 150 points for winning this race. Of course, 5 points going to Dornelis for qualifying, 3 to Landry. So that makes it a 43-point gap. Fastest lap gets 3 bonus points. So if that were to happen, if Dornelis picks up fastest lap, then he'll have 40 points to overcome. But it still would not be enough, because 3rd position gets you 115. So those extra 5 points would be enough for Landry to take it home. 100 points is what happens when you finish in 4th position. It doesn't seem like much, but it's certainly going to be quite the task, especially for Jonathan Clifford to get around. He might be playing for himself, but maybe he's looked at the standings. Maybe he's realized what he needs to do. Hopefully does it cleanly. We had Ewan Cairns for EU. His Pro-Am championship hopes dashed because of a spin at the start. Let's look out the back one more time. Let's turn this pesky little HUD off. Take one good look. Even on low settings, this game looks amazing. So, one last little parade lap, and we get ready. We're double file for the last time. 70 minutes on the clock. 2 mandatory pit stops here at the Nurburgring. It's been a hell of a season, and we're not done yet. All to play for, all the chips on the table, the gloves are off, the helmets are off. These drivers ready to do battle one last time across the line, and it's green, green, green here. There's already contact in the back. There is no way you can have that happen immediately, and that's going to be, I think, the instant safety car. It's not. There's a whole heap of chaos at the back. Up at the front, however, it is Dornelis getting away. There's Landry in the Audi getting around the Porsche there of Flomger, and it looks like this start has been neutralized. Look at the chaos in the background. I'm not quite certain what happened there. Nunez gets a little bit lucky. Normally he'd have to wait for everyone to go by, but thankfully everybody crashes. So the pack is gonna have to catch up. We'll take a quick look and see what happened, if we can, as to what exactly went down at the start. So let's see, that's the Lamborghini of Braden Thompson, it looks like. As we pull ahead, I think he just gets a terrible start. No chase cam here. Oh, he has to brake because Loverink misses the start altogether. Just doesn't get a jump at all. Hobson gets a beautiful, like, he times it to perfection. With everybody else, expects to go straight. But the problem is there's a Ferrari, gets tagged from behind from Fernandez. That sends him into Formato. Oh, that's going to be a huge bit. Oh, no, that's going to change everything. That changes the whole layout, the whole landscape of this championship. Because Formato has to win. He has to finish ahead of the other Pro-Ams. And right now, he's in position 19. Way down the grid. Oh, this, and it's Wilson Fernandez. It's Wilson. Where has Wilson gone? Andrew Wilson's in P11. 11 nets him 65 points. And again, it's a 60-point gap. So even with this, Formato at 19th will get 33. It'll still be enough. It will still be enough. There's one of the Porsches. I believe that's Nunez having to let everybody through. I think we may have another lap here, unless the race director has given us the green light. We'll take a look out the back of Dornelis. It doesn't look like it, so we'll have another lap here under the virtual safety car. I don't know if anyone's going to go into the pit lane. Oh, there's going to be a bunch of people going in. Rask goes into the pit lane. Carpenter's going to go in. Not Parkinson. Hunter Page goes in. Michael Formato goes in. Dave Hasser goes in. Jorge Nunez goes in. And keep in mind, none of these pit stops are going to count. The pit window hasn't opened. It's not going to open for another 1 minute and 40 seconds. So even with these pit stops, it'll be just pointless. Oh, I think Nunez, it's the drive-through, actually, so he'll be fine. He's just going to go through, grab some positions, and leave. But the rest of these guys, it's going to be for damages suffered at the start. Carpenter, Page, Formato, that's going to be huge. You almost wonder if he ends up in 22nd, that's 24 points. Oh, very quick on the draw, actually. So he's actually not going to lose a lap here. He's going to come out behind Nunez, though. So Nunez grabs a position. These guys are going to have to run back to the pack. They got to be careful, though. Everyone's got to be careful. There are no safety cars in ACC natively. When we do bring out a safety car, it is a volunteer driver, of course, or in the case of right now in North America, there is a virtual safety car. Collisions are still on, though. So if you make contact, it will count, and the race director and stewards make it abundantly clear at every race that if you do make contact under a safety car, you will cop a very, very hefty penalty for that. We haven't seen it, though, thankfully. But everyone does a very good job. Not the first time we've had a safety car in the Sprint Series. Not the first time we've had one in North America. But it's good to know we get one right at the end of the season. So we continue on this lap. We'll check the track map here. You can see the 717 there. That's Nunez. He's got Formato behind. They're going to catch the pack pretty soon. The number 6 of Page as well should catch up. Pit window does open up, so these pit stops will count, which is always a positive. And of course, Nunez clears his drive-through free of charge, effectively. So he's got nothing to worry about. There's the 883 of Carpenter, so it looks like Rasco and Hasser probably won't catch up to the pack by the time we go racing again, but they are coming up to a very fast section while everyone else is moving slowly, so we could have a full race start. At the very least, though, it will be Carpenter and Page catching up to the pack. If Dornelis decides to move a little bit slower, then he could let these guys catch up, but I highly doubt that. So out of the 22 cars, 20 of them will be able to rejoin the pack. The other two have some work to do. See some weaving here from these guys, trying to keep some heat in the tires. And Dornelis punches it on the exit of the chicane. He wants to get this race going back already. He's tired of waiting. The stewards, the directors did give him the all clear, and he's going to take advantage of that. 1 hour, 3 minutes, 50 seconds on the clock. And the unfortunate thing is, Landry is in second position. So for Dornelis, he's got to hope for some miracle play, because if he doesn't, Landry will take the championship. He needs that Audi to finish 4th, which means Flomger and Pierce have to get around him. Clifford as well could get the job done. Loverink maybe. 4 different manufacturers, and still anything is possible, but it is Renato Dornelis right now leading the race. Nunez already feeling a bit of pressure there from Formato. Formato knows that he just has to finish the race. He doesn't have much to worry about for Wilson. He's got a long way to go. He could possibly take this if he gets a big enough gap, but that is easier said than done. Same with Shirley, who has the advantage over Parkinson. There's only 2 drivers between them. But catching up is one thing, overtaking is another. Chris Frizza going door to door right now with Braden Thompson into the Dunlop curve. Down the inside does go the Lamborghini. All that camber, all that little extra bit of speed is going to work out beautifully. Frizza gets it a little bit wrong on the exit. That does push Nunez into the picture. He does go on the outside. Now the inside of the Schumacher S. Doesn't get the best run possible. And for Frizza, out of it just by the skin of his teeth. To see how much some of these guys are going to throw it over these curbs, desperate to find any sort of gap they can, any sort of advantage. There's Michael Formato on the inside there of Hunter Page. Running wide is Austin Carpenter, is keeping the Aston Martin together. Not too difficult, of course. One of the easier cars to drive. A very good beginner car, but is definitely a threat in the right hands. He's looking on the inside into the chicane. There is Brian Rasco, who is going to spin himself out. Got a little bit too ambitious. There's Braden Thompson going into the pit lane very early. Wants to get that pit stop done as soon as possible. Same with Thomas Dagg. Take one off and then get the rest of the race going. Michael Formato, you can see just up ahead, there's Nunez, and I believe that is that's Austin Carpenter, I think. It is. There's a huge dive down the inside from Formato into turn number 1. Gets not just 1, but gets 2 of them with that. That's the 674 of Parkinson, actually, who's a long way back from where he was. So that is going to really damage the chances there in the amateur category. Brian Rasco trying to run away from Hasser. Or sorry, Hasser's trying to run away from Rasco. We have got already Thomas Dagg out of the pits. That first stop served. Let's rejoin Nunez here right now. Of course, in the newer Porsche that was released in 1.9, we had those 3 new cars, the new Ferrari, the new Lamborghini, of course, the new Porsche. Very popular picks. The Ferrari, though, I believe upon DLC drop was the meta pick. Drivers took advantage of that. I believe Kunos tweaked it a little bit in the subsequent updates. But the Porsche is still a very solid pick. Overall, we had a good number of them right now. Nunez with some trouble. That wing is obstructing the view, but you can see the Audi there of Formato just poking out. Wilson is just ahead of both of these guys, but these finishing positions won't be enough for Wilson to take home the crown in Pro-Am. And for the amateur class championship as well, it is surely... Hold on, we've got Clifford trying to make a move on Pierce down to turn number 1. It's a little bit later on the brakes. It looks like for the Lamborghini is going to use all the car he can, and Jonathan Clifford spins himself out at turn number 1. We talked about it earlier. That change in elevation is going to do you in. And we'll see it here. The car is very stable on entry. And then, yeah, you can see how much the car bounces. And for Jonathan Clifford, able to just get out of the way. And despite being in a very tight spot, does manage to turn it around quite nicely. So for Jonathan Clifford, that's not what he wants. He's going to go back to 8th because of that. He had the brakes into the corner, but as he went through, it just did not work out. Hunter Page, position 14 behind Formato. 2 amateur class drivers. But Page, unfortunately, not really in contention. Looking up the top, it's still Dornelis with fastest lap. So that's 3 extra points added on. So the gap to Landry is 40. But the problem is that win condition of Landry finishing 4th or lower still stands. Because 115 points compared to 150 is only 35. But with Landry running in 2nd right now, well, it won't be that much. It'll be about maybe 20 or so. Have a point difference between 1st and 2nd. Let's jump back up right now. Thomas Pierce, a lot of pressure. There's Skylar Loverank sitting behind, waiting for the most opportune moment to strike. Looks like he got a little bit loose there out of the final corner, a little early on the throttle, spun the tires a little bit. And even with the, well, there would be a slipstream, but not really close enough. So he's going to lose some time a little bit later on the brakes, trying to recover that ground. That sun's slowly setting here in Germany. We see Hunter Page into the pit lane, Dave Hasser into the pit lane as well. Oh no, it's Dave Hasser spinning off actually at the final chicane. If I had to bet on it, might have gone a little bit too much on the inside here. Oh, very much. Just completely offline. Does drift into pit lane, doesn't put it into the wall, and is able to come back out onto circuit. Hunter Page, though, did go into the pit lane there. So for the Canadian number 6, that is a calculated call. Not so much for his opponent. Michael Formato is in 13th. You can see the McLaren behind there. That's Rasco. Trying to get 13th position and just up ahead. It is parity, and I believe that was also Nunez in the white Porsche. You can't see it too well, but you can definitely see the paint job. And you can also see Rasco in the same boat. Much better view this will give us. It's the thing with Formato being in sort of a sandwich right now. Same with parity. You got to have eyes pointed in both directions. You got to also be careful through Schumacher to not lose the back end of the car. Rasco does get a good exit, but there's not enough road. Formato a bit deep on the brakes. Rasco does get a bit of a lunge there. And has to stay on the brakes a little bit more. And Formato still very loose there. And now Rasco, he's sensing that Formato might be faltering a little bit. The mental fortitude he's known for, not showing up. But there's still 56 minutes to play. Rasco, very early pit stop for him. So it looks like a lot of these drivers are getting their first stop out of the way. Get on that fresh set of rubber and then get back out there. And wait for it to be less than 30 minutes remaining and then make that final call. Is it going to rain? Is it going to stay nice and clear? That's going to be the big question. It's also important for these drivers to make sure they don't go too quick into the pit lane. The line and the board that are used to mark the entry of the pit lane, it's a little bit difficult to see. It's almost hidden behind one of the barriers. Now, normally in-game, when you're going into the pits, if the game is able to sort of recognize that you are slowing down and you're maybe a couple of kilometers over by the time you come in, that's okay. It won't give you a drive-through. You don't have to be exact, and I've had this happen to me a good few times. I'm, you know, maybe 52 kilometers, and the game says, that's okay. You don't have to worry about nothing because you're going to be fine. Oh, we've got the Lexus there. That is Edson Mike, who did run a bit wide. Michael Formato, hold on, has to go around the outside here at the Dunlop curve. Does he get it done? No, he doesn't. Looks for a bit of a switchback, but riding a little bit too much momentum around the outside does not give him the position. That does give Parity a chance to recuperate. And Formato, really, it's that back end. It doesn't want to cooperate. He's unable to get this held down. Parity, I think, outbrakes himself a little bit. You can see the rear damage on the Ferrari. Had that unfortunate bit of contact at the start of the race. But for the number 23, it's been pretty solid. Besides that, Formato pushing up with the slipstream. Brakes are relatively similar. They both carry on. And as I was saying about the pit lane, and normally in game, like I said, a couple kilometers as you hit the line, that's fine. As long as the game, you're slowing down, the game recognizes that, you're fine. You know, in the OR, it's a little bit different. You don't get that luxury. If the stewards do see that you are over, you are going to get penalized. And we have seen that in the past. But for right now, these drivers, at least those that have gone in from 17th down to 22nd, seems as though they've been pretty good about making sure that, well, their speed is low. I think we may also be waiting for a possible verdict on the starting incident. I don't think it's going to be enough for a penalty. It looked like just completely accidental. But who knows? Maybe there's something the stewards know that we don't. Right now, things have very much calmed down. It was a very explosive start. We saw the same thing in EU. It was a very fiery start, and then everyone kind of just backed off and realized, okay, this is a little bit much. Oh, Michael Formato rumbling over the gravel there. That Audi just bouncing up and down. Lucky to keep that one pointed in the right direction. And there's Edson Mike. Edson Mike, 36 points. Shirley is at 39. But with Shirley in 8th, Mike in 13th, it's going to be quite a gap to overcome. By the end of this race, Thomas Pierce and Skylar Loverink, though, keeping each other company. Dornelis pulling out about 2 seconds, just over to Landry. And still with fastest lap. If Dornelis can't win, he might as well take the full set of points he can. Formato is going to come into the pit lane here. There he is. So we'll see where he gets spit out. First stop. Still one more to go, of course, by the end of the race. Keep an eye on the upper right. You can see the conditions here at the Nurburgring. Of course, currently sunny. Next 10 minutes, in the next 30 minutes, it'll be about the same. You see the track grip is optimum. That's, of course, what you're going to be looking for. Anything less than that, you're not going to be able to go as fast or get as much performance as you would like. And then you have the ambient temperature, you have the track temperature, 18 Celsius and 18 Celsius. So we're looking, I think it's about 62, 63. I had to look it up last time. It's the only reason I know. Then we also have a 12-kilometer wind. So these settings are actually pretty much a one-to-one what we had in EU. So now things are very much settled here. Drivers are just going around doing their thing. I think once those final pit stops get decided, I think that's when we see a lot of these drivers starting to throw some hands, maybe. Oh, we started with 22, still with 22. There's Dornelis getting around Braden Thompson. Braden Thompson immediately into the pits at the start we saw. And there's Landry behind. Dornelis is going to hope that, hopefully, Thompson can hold Landry behind for a significant amount of time, relatively speaking, for Flomger to catch up. Flomger has just a couple of seconds, though, so it's not looking likely. You can see him. There he is. Just popping out at the top of the shot. But for Dornelis, even if he doesn't win, I'm sure he'd be happy to take home another win to add to the stat sheet. I can't tell you how many times that man has won in the sprint, whether it be the championship or it's just individual races. He's been all over it. Same with Marc-Antoine Landry. We've had a couple Landrys here in North America, and it has tripped me up a few times when they were both here, and it seems to have tripped me up anyways with Mark here. The Canadian doing a very solid job. Very good season from him as well. Has been lighting up the charts. And that is currently why he is sitting in position number 1 in the championship. He had a 45-point gap, but currently, well, it's a little bit less than that. It's 0. Or, sorry, not 0. It's 40 points. Of course, Landry started 3rd. Dornelis started 1st, so that's, well, 2 points. And with fastest lap, it's actually 39. Can you guys tell I'm not a mathematician? Never have been, never will be. But Dave Hassler, Chris Frizza, this is the battle for position 13. You could assume equal machinery as they're both in the Ferrari, but it's, well, as I say that, Caster's curse onto the gravel. Does Frizza find a little bit of land to work with? He's going to have to go around the outside here as Hassler sticks to the inside, sticks to what he knows, but he is going to have... Oh, he's actually not going to take advantage, Frizza. As he just completely wrecks himself coming out of that corner. So the time he just gained has been lost. You almost wonder if he was actually going to get around Hassler or not. His last lap, 500 slower. But if he got around, could he have held that man back? That's kind of the big question that you have to ask. And I'm not too certain. We rejoin Skylar Loverink, number 52. Currently chasing down Thomas Pierce there in the 131 McLaren. Oh, he's very late on the brakes. Really trying to close up any sort of gap he can. There's Braden Thompson. There's the back marker, 144. If this can get timed any better for Loverink, he could use it almost as a screen, as a pick, whatever you want to use. He could use it to his advantage, but I think Braden Thompson might use the back straight here to let these guys through. Very just sort of straight minus the curve, very predictable here. Ooh, it's a late shift there for Loverink. So the final chicane, just, I would say, maybe 60 meters. Is his brake marker. A little bit loose there on exit through the chicane. And now they pull up to Braden Thompson. He's going to just pull off to the side, start getting a little bit slow there. Let them both through while keeping his own speed up. And there it is. They both go past very cleanly. So we'll actually stick here with Thompson. So give us a nice little overview of what's happening right now between Pierce and Loverink for position number 4 in the race. Look at these top 7 positions dominated by the amateur, by the pros. And then there's the amateur of Shirley there in P8, which puts a bit of a quirk there, because then you have this group of pro-ams of Wilson, Parody, and Nunez that are split up by Mike. And there's Hassa and Frizza. Into the pits does come Nunez. Then you have Parkinson there as well. And then everybody from 16th and beyond. Those guys have had the pit stops cleared. Mike will join them. Nunez will join them. So it looks to be about Well, 25 minutes was the time that these drivers were gonna spend on that first set before coming in. That'll give them 15 minutes before the final weather report, and then from there, well, adjust the strategy, up the tire pressure maybe a little bit. The temperature has been staying very consistent though. It stayed about 18 ambient and on track in EU for a long time. Then it dropped to 17, and well, that was about it. So it shouldn't be too much adjustment unless you really want to, get down to the nitty-gritty of it. As Pierce runs a bit wide onto the gravel, Loverink senses an opportunity, and thankfully it does come to him in the form of Pierce diving into the pit lane for his first mandatory stop. So, for Loverink, this is going to have to be an amazing outlap if he wants to make this worth his while. You saw Timothy Flomger go into the pits. Clifford's going to come into the pits here as well for his first stop of the evening. And that pitted line is a very long way into the pit lane, of course. We've seen some pretty lengthy pit lanes this season. For the Nurburgring, it's, I think, a little bit over 30 seconds, so actually not that bad in terms of driving. But of course, the possibility of an undercut always lurking in the shadows as Austin Shirley comes into the pit lane. We do have Austin Carpenter right now. Behind there is Wilson Fernandez. He's trying. He wants another bit of points. Finish ahead of the 883. There's Dave Hassler in the pits as well. Oh, and that is the worst possible spot because Fermato. Oh no, Fernandez. Oh, that is not what you want. Michael Fermato spins out at Schumacher. The back end just stepping out on the Audi. There's the Aston Martin going by. Oh, and it's a massive hit there from Fernandez. Austin Carpenter lucky to get away with that. And by the time Carpenter got around, it was too late. Fernandez could not get out of the way in time, and he will have to retire the car. So for the 888, that's going to be it. His season ends. Not in the way he would have liked. A very sour note there, but a huge impact. It was already bad enough for Fermato, but it's gone even worse. He's going to be in that pit lane for a long, long time to get that damage fixed. For him, that's not what you want. But speaking of pit stops, it's Dornelis, Loverink coming in right now. Same with Portis. Shirley has a drive-through. If I had to bet on it, probably speeding in the pit lane. Again, those stewards, they really make sure that you are at 50 kilometers. No more. They'll take less, that's totally fine. Anything more than that, they're going to be a little bit unhappy. So, looking at the picture, of course. Dornelis, with past the slap, 39 points back from Landry. Landry is in the lead currently, but hasn't gone for pit stop yet. Of course, if, well, Dornelis finishes first and Landry finishes third, it would only be 4 points. I think. Either way, it's, again, Landry's got to finish fourth. That's what Dornelis has to worry about. If Landry, and I highly doubt this, if Landry does do the unfortunate thing that Fermato had just done in the same car, then this could be the end of it for Landry. Dornelis would walk away, but, well, oh, that's a very interesting Landry. I was just talking about not doing the thing that Fermato did. You can't just do that on pit lane entry. Oh, I think he was trying to do a Sebastian Vettel in China. Just everyone's slow into the pit lane, but the line isn't for a long ways up. I think he tried to get around the McLaren there of Shirley, who is going to serve that pit lane or drive-through. There's a lot of damage on the front end, actually. Can't see it right now all too much, of course, because of Well, the fact that he's not moving too fast, you can see the hood popped a little bit. But we'll look at it as he comes out once there's some speed. Oh, the car even got it yeah, that front windshield busted up. There's definitely a lot of performance. He picks up another penalty. A stop-go 30 for Shirley. For Parkinson, if Shirley goes any further back, that could be it, because it's only 6 points that separate them. Mike is in there too, but he's 3 points back and behind Austin Shirley. If they were to just finish right now, if the checkered were to come out, Parkinson would pick up 60 points, and for Austin Shirley, it would only be 33. Which would hand the championship over to the 647 Aston Martin. God, no matter what, you are always going to have some action. I don't know if I don't think Landry was speeding. Again, the stewards are going to look at it, but it's been a little bit, so he's probably fine. Of course, welcoming in Glenn. Always glad to have Glenn, one of the masterminds here at the OOR. Of course, with the livery sync tool that I certainly, most definitely didn't forget to sync prior to the race. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, of course, shout out to you, Glenn. Because before, I would just get a zip file with all of the liveries in, and whether or not they would sync was a complete coin toss. But with the sync tool, it's pretty easy. Just clear it out, and then download everything again. Good to go. Parkinson's in the pit lane, first of 2 pit stops. We'll check with Shirley, as Shirley's coming through the chicane, and it looks like he is going to serve this stop-go 30. Is he on the limiter already? He is. Part of me wants to respect the conservative approach. Oh, he's got very big damage. He's got very big damage. Look at the steering. Wheels to the left, but he's still moving straight. It's like a misaligned tire. I don't think he'll be able to get both the damage fixed and have that stop-go removed. So for Parkinson, this is very good news. Although he's not moving. Why is he not moving? Oh, because he's letting people through. Okay, that's smart. I thought for a moment he, didn't put any fuel in the car. He is going to hold up Clifford a little bit. But that's okay. Clifford gets around, continues on towards Portis. So smart moves from Parkinson. If Shirley isn't able to get the damage fixed and get the stop-go 30 cleared, then that's going to be a big problem. Oh, and Mike as well. Mike is ahead. Okay, hold on. Wait a second. Mike is 17th. That's 39. If this stays between those three, between Mike, Parkinson, and Shirley, 17, 18, and 19, that means Edson Mike would take the championship. See, I didn't expect it to be this crazy. I was expecting a lot of, action. I mean, there is action, but, the lap after lap, really trying to find your way around somebody. But I didn't think it was going to be because of crashes, because of accidents, because of just small missteps like that. We talked about in EU, these little mistakes, especially with track cut warnings here at the Nurburgring. It's very easy to get it in some spots, and you get that first one, you go, all right, whatever. You get the second one, you start to maybe think a little bit about where you picked it up. Think about, how was it that you got your second track cut warning, and then you get the third one, then you start to panic because one more and you get a drive-through. And while you want to drive as fast as possible, you end up reeling the car in a little bit too much. And for some, you do end up getting another track cut somehow. For others, you completely fall off the rhythm, you fall off your pace, and the guy gets around you. But for a lot of these drivers, it's not really that hard for them. They're able to just keep going. Keep it within the lines, and even if they do pick up that track cut warning, very quickly recognizing the problem. But very rarely do I think we see any of these drive-throughs. There's Dave Hasser. I think he was just going around Nunez. Or sorry, not Nunez. Anyways, Formato's in the pit lane still with that damage. You almost wonder if he's done and dusted. Austin Shirley rejoins the circuit, and he's a lap down on Edson Mike and Tim Parkinson's, but this will put him, this is going to put him out of contention. That's it. He cleared the stop-go penalty, and now he has to get the damage fixed. So for Austin Shirley, he's going to be a day late, $1 short, and a couple of screws loose, as Edson Mike and Tim Parkinson can start running away. Of course, Shirley will be getting on to the lap here, the sort of lead lap of these bottom three drivers, not counting Formato, of course, because he's been in the pit lane for a very long time. But when Edson Mike now builds a lap over, and Tim Parkinson as well is a long way back. He's just coming up to the final chicane now. But he'll put a lap on Shirley. They'll have to serve theirs still. Again, it's about 30 seconds of driving from one end to the other if you get it just right. So you're looking at about 60 seconds. Although, realistically, we're probably looking at about 75 or so. Right now, Kenneth Portis in a lot of trouble because Clifford is finding the pace. The lap there for Clifford was a lot faster. I think Portis got a bit loose in one of the corners because that gap is just a couple of tenths right now. Clifford trying to go for a bit of a straighter exit there. The right-hander out of the Mercedes arena. It hasn't worked out because Portis is going to use that to his advantage. Oh, a little bit too late on the brakes. And Clifford on the brakes a little too long. Down to Dunlop again. For these two guys, it's a fight for position. They don't care about the championship. They're not worried about it. They're not even going to be close to it. They just want to see who can best the other one final time before the season ends. And right now, Portis is looking like the likely victor, but Clifford doesn't give up. Shirley, he's done. Shirley picked up another stop-go 30. I wonder what happened there. Maybe he just got a little bit too eager on the pit limiter on exit, and that is what, well, that's what did it for him. So for Austin Shirley, it's an unfortunate way to end the season, of course. But that is all she's going to write for him. Jonathan Clifford's in the pit lane, so he's going to try to undercut Portis a little bit. We'll see how well that works, if at all. Chris Frizza chasing down Hasser for P15. Hasser's last lap, a 57.9, but a 57.1 for Frizza. That is a long bit of bridge to cover. And only being about 8/10 back. And then being, well, 9 seconds or so off of the next driver up, Braden Thompson. Jonathan Clifford, like I said, in the pit lane, so that'll clear his last stop. 31 minutes to go. The cloud's still there, but they're not threatening. They're just blocking out a little bit of the skyline, but that's okay. So I think for the last 30 minutes or so, we should be clear sky racing. But the real story right now is going to be Edson Mike and Tim Parkinson. Edson Mike, 36 points. Tim Parkinson, 33. So if they finish right here, right now, 17th gets 39, 18th gets 36. That is 3 points, but it is in the favor of Mike, so that would end up being a 6-point gap at the end of it all. Unless, my math should not be wrong. And neither should the standings. Because there's a certain someone that runs it who does a very good job of running it. But yeah, for Parkinson, he's got a lot of road to cover in a very short amount of time. It's not going to be quick. It's not going to be easy. But again, it's a 3-point gap between them. By the time we get to the end, things really calming down. Pierce, I think with Lovering still behind. Yeah, Lovering's actually losing a little bit of time despite having a faster lap by 0.2. Gap hasn't worked. Jonathan Clifford out of the pit lane here, so he's all set. We'll come out onto the circuit in P14. But everybody else ahead of him has to come in. We are under 30 minutes. You can see the weather forecast there, upper right. 30 minutes out, it's going to be sunshine. So for some of these drivers, they're going to go just a little bit longer. I know that's what I would do, just to make sure the game doesn't try to pull a sneaky on you. So maybe latest we see a pit stop, I wouldn't see anything later than maybe 16, 17 minutes left on the clock. But again, for a lot of these drivers, one more to go, and that's it. It's only Clifford and Rasco that have cleared both of those stops. Fermato, the car, going to go out on a limb here. Say this number 11, is not so long for this championship. Is probably retiring the car, but at least staying in the server to keep an eye on the action. But it's still Renato Dornelis in the lead, 4.5 seconds right now over Landry. This would not be enough to win Season 13. Even with pole position, even with fastest lap, it would still go the way of Marc-Antoine Landry and the 711 Audi. Not quite the double gulp that Dornelis gets here to start the race off, but it doesn't matter as long as the points are going in your favor. Oh, and Hunter Page onto the grass, spins it out, but is, well, thankfully able to get it back together. There's Austin Carpenter, though, arriving on the scene. Is he able to close the gap up? That Lambo, a bit slow to get going, but once it goes, it's gone. Austin Carpenter wasn't able. It was just a little bit too late, but it is going to be Hunter Page into the pit lane. Those tires probably done. We did see in EU the overall winner there, not only for the race, but in the season. Pierre Moreno had an incredibly long stint on his second set of tires. Still managed to improve the fastest lap despite that, despite having on worn rubber. And then got the new set on and still got a faster lap. So I don't know which one of these drivers is going to do something roughly the same. I don't know if that's really going to be possible. But right now the fastest lap still sits at a 53.49 by Dornelis. Of course, that track's still optimum, still perfect conditions. The rubber's still laid down. So just that little bit of extra grip for these drivers to work with. But again, those tires, they're getting worn, they're getting old. So they'll have to, let's see if we can maybe get an extra quick lap afterwards. But Dornelis' fastest lap is just about 4/10 quicker. And even his last lap is 3/10. So very similar times over Landry, or time differences rather, over Landry. Thomas Dagg's going to go into the pit lane here as well. That'll get him sorted out for the finale. Lovering and Pierce, though, these two guys have been almost joined at the hip. It feels like maybe a little bit of a long-term relationship, hip jointment, but still keeping each other nice and cozy. And company. 2/10 quicker, though, for Lovering. despite that, can't overcome that 1 second gap. But out of the 20 drivers on circuit, started with 22, lost a couple of them. But out of 22 drivers, or 20 drivers rather, we'll just say 5 of them have cleared all the stops. Landry, excuse me, Formato has not moved at all. It was very unfortunate. If you remember, he just got a little bit loose, spun around, and then just got completely tagged from the driver behind Carpenter, and well, that was certainly going to be an unfortunate end for all those guys involved. But Pierce is losing some ground right now. Lovering finding a little bit of extra pace. We'll see what the gap looks like. Ooh, 3/10 as they cross the line. Could this be a change for position 4 Brewing? Lovering's got to be careful again. That first corner. Oh, he's just getting loose there. You can see how much he's correcting right now on the wheel. Having to just stop the slide. Does do it very, very well. I was just about to say it's turn 1 he's got to worry about, but I guess it's turn 2 as well. And just up ahead, that is, I believe, Hunter Page. It is. So the number 6 will have to move over fairly soon. And it looks like soon it's going to be right about now. As back marker letting these two guys through, almost onto the gravel, actually. Very close on that front. There's Jonathan Clifford on Kevin Parody. I don't think the Canadian's going to fight it. No, he's not. He knows who Clifford is. He knows what this man's capable of. If you've seen his live streams, the 999 is quite strong any track. A lot of time behind the little Lamborghini. So Parody is not going to fight it. Just going to hurt his race as well. But he doesn't seem to be too distraught over that. And still with these two, Pierce and Lovering. And there's Hunter Page behind as well. Keeping up despite having to slow down a good bit. Into the final chicane. Oh, I thought for a moment. Thought there was going to be some rapid... Oh, God, almost into the back of each other. I thought it was going to be a very late lunge there. Oh, there's the... Wait, what? Wait, Edson, excuse me? What in the world happened there? Ensign Mike spins it into the pit lane. So he goes in. There's the two guys behind. Oh no, he gets... Thomas Pierce spins out Ensign Mike in the pit lane. I don't know if... Oh, Mike's been disqualified. No. Ensign Mike gets disqualified for driving the wrong way because he was spun around in the pit lane. In the pit lane. You can't really stop the gas and spin the car around. There's not enough room for it. But what you could do, as we actually look at Nunez and Wilson, maybe back it up into this little area here on the right that Nunez is coming around towards. And I wouldn't say do a J turn, but maybe a 3-point turn. And that's it. Edson's gone. So he'll finish 20th, which is 30 points. And Parkinson will finish 18th, which is 36 points. Which means that Parkinson wins the amateur championship. Parkinson wins the amateur championship. Because Shirley was gone because of all of the pit lane shenanigans he had to deal with on top of the damage. he had a stop-go, he had a drive-through, he had damage, and he had all this other stuff that got added on, and then he just called it quits. Ensign Mike gets turned around in the pit lane by this man right here, Thomas Pierce. I don't know if... I want to assume that Mike maybe thought the pit entry line to signify that this area beyond is the pit lane, and you have to slow down. And maybe Pierce wasn't ready for it. Maybe Pierce got impatient because Clifford was right on him. Or sorry, Loverink rather was right on him. The stewards, oh, they're gonna look at that. They're gonna look at that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's anything. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a penalty period. I don't think it really matters. Any penalty would most likely be what the stewards believe. We'll have to see what the stewards dictate. It's up to their decision, of course. Parkinson in the pit lane for his final stop of the race. Dave Hasser as well. Austin Carpenter is going to clear those. That leaves Parody, Thompson, Portis, Landry, and Dornelis. The only drivers who have yet to serve the final pit stop. And, well, as we are under 20 minutes to go, the weather is going to stay, as it has been pretty much across all four splits, if you want to call them that, or 4 splits, excuse me, three regions: North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. 4 splits over in AP, and then 1 here in NA and 1 over in EU. But this has been, it's. I don't think this was in the script. I don't remember reading that anywhere. But it's not really the championships that are decided on the track. It's decided because of these almost off-track stupid mistakes, or just things that I don't think we could have predicted. You know, Formato, for example, was on to win Pro-Am, but because of his, we'll say, injury, I think he will still win Pro-Am, because if we look at the points, Formato was 305. Wilson has 245. And that's a 60-point difference. 19 is 33 points for Formato. And for Wilson in 13th, that's only 55. That's 22. That's not enough. He would have to finish at this point. Wilson would have to find a way, somehow, I don't know how exactly, he would have to finish in 5th to pick up the necessary 60 points to overcome. But that's very unlikely. Very, very unlikely. And then for Parkinson, literally just has to finish the race. Ensign Mike was 20th, disqualified because he was spun in the pit lane by Thomas Pierce. Again, I don't know the whole story about it. Thomas Pierce maybe got a little impatient, maybe expected Ensign Mike to realize, hey, you know, the pit lane line is actually a lot farther ahead. But whatever ended up happening, Pierce spun him around, and because there really isn't a lot of room, you can't stomp on the gas and get that car, you know, back around. So either Mike drove forward, which is the wrong way because he was facing completely backwards. So either he was driving the wrong way or he was reversing too much. I highly doubt it's the second one, though. If anybody's tried it in free practice, if you turn the car 180 degrees and you start driving, eventually, usually very quickly, depending on the track, even, the game will just say, okay, you're disqualified, get out. So, for Mike. He will finish this race in P20, which will be 30 points for Tim Parkinson in 18th. That's 36. That's 3 points necessary to tie it up, and then 3 more points to get cleanly around Fermato. He's been in the pits for a very, very long time. He had a huge accident. He just got a little bit loose at Schumacher. I think that the back end just got a little bit light, and that spun him around. And then there were a couple cars behind who were having a bit of a fight for position. The first one, of course, saw it coming and got out of the way at the last second, and the other car, no time at all to react, and both of them went in opposite directions like a couple of billiard balls, and well, that is Michael Fermato's season over. But even if Briscoe finishes, well, Fermato is going to take the win. He's going to take Pro-Am, and for the Pro category, Dornelis with the final stop for himself. With that final stop, even with this result, he will not win, because Landry needs to be 4th. With a 39-point gap, 39 points back, rather, isn't enough. Because if you want to get enough of a buffer, you have to be 4th. So for Landry, just got to get to the end. You got to get one more pit stop in before the end of the race. And there's Dornelis right there, actually. Kevin Parody's coming in now for his pit stop. His final one. Maybe touch up some of the damage. Getting on that pit limiter early before the line. So that way he does not get penalized. I think he was fine. Could be wrong. There's Landry. He's coming in as well. He's got to be careful. Oh, I think Landry was a little too quick into the pit lane. You saw the pit limiter. HUD element. It was red. That's going to cause some problems. But it's up to this man right here, Thomas Pierce, to overcome the gap. Because while Flomger could take it off the penalty, if Pierce can also use that possible penalty, of course, we're not certain, but maybe he will get a penalty, Landry, if that is enough. And if Pierce is close enough, if him and Flomger are close enough, rather, then Dornelis would take it. So, Pro-Am is decided because of Fermato. Oh my god, Fermato's out on track. Oh my god. Huge round of applause for Fermato. He was in the pits for, well, his current lap time. I wonder if it comes up. I don't think it does. No, it doesn't show it here. Oh, there it is. He has a 33-minute lap on a course that's, well, just a little bit under 2 minutes long. So shout-outs to him for making it onto the circuit again. He is 16 laps down on the leader and make it 17. Heck, he could come in, do another pit stop. He's got 6 minutes and 45 seconds to get that final one cleared. Not like it's really going to matter, but, you know, it's the thought that counts. Dornelis retakes the lead over Landry, but Landry, was he too quick into the pit lane? The stewards will look at that. I thought he was, but maybe I was wrong. Parody's out of the pits finally. So that leaves 2 people, Braden Thompson and Michael Fermato. Yeah, no penalties. Niall, you're correct. No penalties from the game, but it's a little bit different here with the Simrigs Sprint Series stewards. We really like to make sure that you are at 50 when you get to the line. The game, of course, it works a bit different. If it can tell you're slowing down and you're just a few kilometers over, that's fine. But we got some pretty more stringent standards here. I'm surprised that Pierce has not gotten a penalty just yet. Granted, these penalties do take a long time to come in. Especially here at the end of the race, the stewards are looking at a lot of different angles, a lot of the telemetry, a lot of the input, seeing what happened. But Formato, even with the closest opponent up being Wilson, in position 12, that would be 60 points. And Formato would have to have finished 31st to get nothing, even though I don't think we do anything more than 30 drivers on a grid. So even if Michael Formato, the number 11 Audi, finished 30th, if we did have all 30 cars on the track, it would still be a 1-point game. It would still be a 1-point advantage, and that would be enough. So Formato's all set. He has won the Pro-Am Championship, Parkinson as well. Now we just wait and see if Landry picks up a penalty. If it's 15 seconds, that would give him 3 seconds of space between himself and Thomas Pierce. Again, that's if a penalty's given out for the spin on Mike into the pit lane. I don't know though. Oh, there's the Ferrari in the background. I don't think that was love ranked. No. Could have been Dag. It wasn't Dag. It might have been... No, it wasn't Wilson. So it wasn't... Was it Parody? Nope, wasn't Parody. It must have been Frizza then. Yeah, that was Frizza. Got the Bricks Racing. Ferrari. Frizza's a long way off right now. He's not really much of a concern. There's Dornellis getting around Parody. It's unfortunate I didn't get deliveries. Again, apologize to the drivers. I will be here. I know I'll be hearing about this. Everybody's gonna be what's gonna give me a hard time, but they do it because they care, and that's all I can really ask for. Valantry's still running in P2. Have I been misremembering? Was it not Landry that spun? It was Pierce. It was Pierce that spun because he had Love Rank behind. Well then, I take back everything I have just said about Landry this and Landry that. Having to worry about a penalty. Landry's fine. Barring some sort of massive error, which I highly doubt given him. He should be fine. Hunter Page with Austin Carpenter behind, the last spot in the top 10. But still just a little over 7.5 minutes to go. Braden Thompson, for the last time, comes into the pits. This should... You have Hunter Page and Austin Carpenter and possibly Andrew Wilson a free position. So they'll pick it up. So it looks like Austin Carpenter will also find his way into the top 10. We'll check with Andrew Wilson. We'll see what he does. He comes around. So it looks like, yeah, Andrew Wilson as well will grab a free position. So that'll put him into 11th place. So for Hunter Page and Austin Carpenter, it's about 9th now. That's what they're going to be running with. We'll check with Michael Formato. Let's see if he comes into the pit lane. He has just about 2 minutes. Oh, no, he doesn't have time. He has to come in. If he doesn't... Actually, I don't know what happens. I don't think we've ever had somebody not get both of their pit stops cleared. But again, he's in last. I know there's a time penalty for it. Not certain what it would be. So let's well, keep an eye on that. See if he comes in. We still look to Hunter Page and Austin Carpenter. Very close for both of them. Score has not updated yet. As oh, there it is. They have updated it. It's displayed correctly. Formato, come on, bud. You got 70 seconds to get to your pit box. It's only 70 seconds, he says. Unknowing, surely. And oh, did Hunter Page just give up the position? He did. In the meantime, let's look in the heli cam. So out of the Dunlop curb or corner curve into Schumacher. Oh, just runs it a little bit too much over the gravel. Is lucky to keep himself pointed in the right direction. Carpenter slips around the outside. No problem there. And Michael Formato, he doesn't care. He knows what's coming. He knows that he is not going to be able to clear that pit stop. So for you, sir, I would put a little lowercase o into the chat and the number 7 saluting him. The only driver in North American Sprint to not serve both pit stops by the end of it. And, well, I don't think we could have seen that coming. So we'll see what happens. I don't believe he's going to be disqualified, but it should be a very, very big time penalty. I think 30 or 45 seconds. I can't remember. It's been a long while since I've seen any of it. So let's see what it is. All right, doesn't matter. He didn't clear the pit stop. Maybe the next time he comes around, maybe the game will give him a chance. We'll say, okay, maybe, you know, he was just a little bit too far away, so we'll give him a chance to catch back up. And, well, if he comes around, then maybe, but if not, it'll definitely be at the end of the end of the race or the end of this lap. Confirmation from Edson Mike in chat. He slowed down way too early, and that's why Pierce went into the back of him. Again, it's important to train for the for your pit stops. I know it seems a little ridiculous, but just get used to where that actual line is, especially here at the Nurburgring. It seems like it's a lot closer, but it's a long ways off from one of the several lines in the sand. So Michael Formato, does he get a penalty here, or does the game say, I don't care? Well, Formato certainly doesn't, as he's running it on the grass. All right. Is the penalty given now, or is it at the end of the race? We are just about 3.5 minutes away from the checkered flag. I need to know. Okay, doesn't matter. So it looks like he'll get something at the end, or maybe the stewards will have mercy and say, no, 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 it doesn't exist. There's Nunez letting Dornelis through. Dornelis 10.6 seconds ahead with fastest lap of a 53.342. His last lap was 5,000 slower than his personal best. That's great pace right there. And this is looking to be about a 10th, so he is very much in the rhythm. But it won't matter all too much. It was a 53.59 because it's this guy right here. Landry, P2 in the race, P1 in the championship. This gap, this final placement would not be enough for Dornelis to win. Again, Formato, doesn't matter for him. Just got to make it to the end of the race unless Wilson somehow finds a bunch of positions right at the end. Again, 19 points nets this man 33 points. And for the number 91 of Andrew Wilson in 11th, that would only be 65. So for this guy, just get to the end and you'll be home free. Same with this guy, 674, the Aston Martin belonging to Tim Parkinson for Great Lakes Racing. Well, he's got the same mission as Formato. Just get to the end. He'll take the championship by 3 points because of the point difference. Keep in mind, Mike technically is going to be classified as 20th. Parkinson will be 18th. That's 6 points. 3 points between them. And Shirley's gone as well. Wait a second. Oh, God. Wait, hold on. Wait a second. Would it still count? Would it count as Shirley showing up? Oh, I don't know. I might have miscalled it. We'll say Parkinson wins. Well, actually, no, he should, because then he'd be tied, I think. Would he be tied? He would have a 6-point gap to Shirley. It might go his way just because he's still here. I think Tim Parkinson will just win because he's getting to the checkered flag. But anyways, Dornelis starts the final lap. Same with Landry. Flomger will also be getting there. Flomger, valiant effort this season from him, but he's going to just come up a little bit short, and by a little bit, I mean about 6 figures short. Again, the gap from Landry to Dornelis is 39 points. First for Dornelis, second for Landry would not be enough. That start, it was almost crucial for Dornelis. But the carnage happened a little bit further back. So, 39 points, not enough. Landry, again, had to finish 4th, and that wasn't the case. So that should be it for Season 13 of the Simrigs Sprint Series. And what a season it's been. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. A lot of shocking moments and heroic efforts. But for some, there's just not enough left in the tank. And for others, they won the war of attrition. And that's all they really needed to do at this point. Parkinson, Formato, 2 of those drivers exactly. But Renato Dornelis through the chicane for the very last time. He'll round it up here at the final corner. He is going to win the race, but that's all he's going to be winning here tonight, because the championship goes to this man, Marc-Antoine Landry, 711 Audi for Team WRT out of Canada. This man has been trading the first spot back and forth all season with Dornelis. And he will be your overall and your pro championship winner. Timothy Flomger, 3rd overall, will finish 3rd in this race. Great effort from him. Behind is going to be Thomas Pierce in P number 4. It's Skylar Loverink in P5. Jonathan Clifford, he had a bit of a spin earlier on. He'll be finishing in 6th. Kenneth Portis is 7th. Thomas Dagg will be 8th. Carpenter will be 9th. Tim Parkinson, I don't think he could have expected it, but if my calculations are correct and if my just general guesswork is also to be believed, Tim Parkinson will win the amateur class championship in the most puzzling of ways. And Michael Formato, his race went from bad to worse. Bad to worse, but thankfully it's not going to matter all too much. Wilson is not far enough ahead, so for Michael Formato, even not clearing that final pit stop, it doesn't matter. That time penalty is going to mean pretty much nothing as he crosses the line. 2 minutes added on, but with the drivers disconnecting when they did, he won't get put down any further. Austin Carpenter, for the last time, across the line, and Hunter Page for Achieve Esports in the number 6 Lamborghini. It's going to do a tank slapper into the wall. And it'll be the final car to cross the grid. Ladies and gentlemen, one final time. We're going to look through the race results. It wasn't the final I was expecting, but you can bet your bottom dollar it was a final that I, and hopefully you all, enjoyed watching. Dornelis brings it home in P1 with the fastest lap, but because of Landry's 2nd place finish, he will not take home the trophy. It'll go to the 7-Eleven this season. Maybe next season it'll be the Brazilians' turn back on top. It's Flomger, though. P3. Pierce is 4th, and Loverink is going to be 5th. We'll have to see if maybe there's a switch between those two for positions before or because of the contact with Edson Mike in the pit lane. We'll wait and see. There's Hunter Page at the top of Pro-Am, Andrew Wilson, Jorge Nunez on the top 3, Kevin Parody, Dave Hasser, Chris Frizza, and your Pro-Am winner, Michael Formato, who finishes 16 laps down and with 130 seconds of penalties being given because he didn't clear his pit stops, but that didn't really matter. He was already in last to begin with, so it's a little bit of extra numbers being tacked on there right at the end. And then for the amateurs, well, it's going to be Tim Parkinson, I believe, taking it. Surely will not. 18 laps down, a lot of confusion, it seems like, from that camp. And Ensign Mike disqualified from the race. So Parkinson should be taken, although I've been informed from one Mr. Glenn Peabody that, well, things have been finalized. Ladies and gentlemen, while I make sure everything is all set, one final quick shout out to Simrigs for sponsoring Season 13 of the Sprint Series out of Melbourne, Australia. These guys have got everything you're gonna need to, well, upgrade your gear, or maybe get a couple of extra goodies tacked on for yourself. All of Australia and New Zealand, you guys are going to be covered. And for those of us who aren't on those two island nations, well, an email is all you're going to need. And if you're a Patreon member, you're getting 5% off your in-store purchases, so please take advantage of that. These things are not cheap. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hop back for just a second. I'm going to give you guys the screen capture. I'm going to apologize in advance. There is going to be a flashbang warning. So if you're used to playing Counter-Strike, you're going to get it. But this is the standing, so it is going to be Landry 20 points clear of Dornelis. Michael Fermato 30 some odd points ahead of Wilson, and all the way down in the amateur class, somehow it is Shirley actually who wins it based off of stats, I assume, in the races this season. I don't know, we'd have to take a look, but I guess it is Shirley that does win the championship in the season. Very surprising stuff. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here at the OOR. That's going to do it for Season 13 of the Sprint Series. Sign-ups for Season 14 of the Sprint, they're already live. So if you're coming out of rookies and you're looking to move on up in the world, well, Sprint Series, that's where you're going to go. Endurance Series also starting signups along with the Rookie Series. They're going into their 11th season over there. So we are excited to see all the new drivers who are going to be joining us not only in the Rookie Series, but also in the Sprint Series. And a lot of returning faces as well, I'm expecting, next season. For next season, though, we are going to be stretching things out. 10 races over the course of 3 months. Starts July 19th if you're in Australia, but if you're in, well, Europe or North America, it's going to be July 20th. We're going to be at Silverstone, then it's Hungary, Kyalami, Nurburgring, Paul Ricard, Suzuka, Valencia, Mount Panorama, Monza, and ending it off at Spa. That's going to be October 19th for us here in the Northern Hemisphere. I'll be here. Hopefully you guys will be as well, but on behalf of myself, the drivers, the stewards, the directors, and everybody here at the OOR, I would like to thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed your stay. Make sure you like and subscribe, all that, so you can keep up with all the broadcasts and events that we do. If you've been racing, now's the time to take a break. You've got a month to get yourself sorted out before we get back out on track. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, stay safe, stay beautiful, and we'll see you next time.